So it's like when we played, right? D1 opened, and I correct me if I'm wrong, but when we played, it was September 1
I think you're right.
or whatever that like start day of that junior year was. And that was D1s and D2s were hammering home on the guys they wanted. They were throwing their money out. They were ready to go, right? And then obviously that end of summer to beginning of fall ball, right? That was always D3 when we were growing up. And now it's like, dude, you can sign to a Division 1 school like in your senior year just because something may have fell through or whatever. And like those were like you really hit like the gold mine back when we played. Now it's like your best friend might be getting recruited to a D2 when they're already committed because that's the school they want to go to and they made up their mind, right? And you might be a D1 talent, but nobody's offered you. So you're sitting here in limbo and kids are just like, all right, what do I do? And then it's panic, 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 panic because what am I going to do? I'm a D1 talent, but nobody's offered me. Nobody's talked to me. Maybe nobody even knows who I am. And it's like, I always say this to go back on kids is like everything in recruiting now is connections. I'm sure you can say the same thing. It's like, if you got a guy that you're like is a really great fit for Southern, I'm sure you're going to reach out to Bethke and Shay and say, hey, I think this guy's a good fit for you. Right. And that might be
100%.
the only reason that kid gets through the door. And they might have seen him play 10 times, but they're like, nah, I don't really know. But then you made a phone call on that kid's behalf. And it's like, I think this kid might be good for you guys. And then they look at it, they take it seriously. And it's like, all right, that only happened because of a connection. That didn't happen because the player was at the event and we just happened to stumble upon him. And I always say this now is like, there's not really any diamond in the roughs. You're not going to find that kid in the needle in the haystack of like, all right, this kid's like going to be the next best player in our team. And nobody knows who this guy is. Now you have social media and everyone knows who everyone is. There's barely any stories anymore of essentially nobody knows who this kid is unless they're not on social media or they don't go to any events because that's the only way you find these kids.
Right. Yeah. There's no, like you said, there's no real secrets anymore of the power of social media and word of mouth that you have to be, have somebody on your side, right, to back you up and give you those connections to be able to push forward and get seen by people maybe you wouldn't necessarily be seen at, or you're just going to get glanced over in these larger event scales.
And I think it's a good product of you guys and like the perfect games and everything like that, because it felt like non-social media era. It was the diamonds in the rough of, hey, I saw a kid in the middle of nowhere because I just happened to be there. I don't want anybody else finding out. But you guys have so many people in your environment that you go watch a game in the middle of Maine, almost in Canada, and you find some kid who's 84, 86 that no one would have known about, but you guys find them and post them on social media, and then everybody can see them. So I think it's a good thing because it allows everyone to be seen compared to maybe they don't have a recruiting process because they don't have the ability to be seen. That's why I love what you guys do, because the integration of being able to post a video from you guys, you retweeting it, or a player posting his, and then you guys retweeting it, and then with your guys' mass following, everyone can see it. So I think it's a good product of there's not many diamond in the roughs anymore, because it means everybody is, I guess, would say on a fair playground because they have social media and they have that ability to be seen by the coaches that they might not get seen by, because it's really hard for, take Bethke, for example, to drive 8 hours up to Maine and go watch a kid throw when he has to go recruit the state of Connecticut. But it gives him that ability to see that kid throw, and then that forces a phone call of, hey, you ever heard about Southern Connecticut before? And he probably lives in a town of 600 people. He never would have even thought about Southern Connecticut. So I think that's why I like what you guys do, because it allows, it breeds more opportunity for kids.